literature in English class. It's been very, very eventful in this literature class. And we started off last time, on the previous class, on the review of text. And I just basically did an overview of what, the review or analysis of text will be about. And we started off with The Lion and the Jewel. Although we didn't go into it fully, we talked about the author, and which I remember saying that you don't just pick a work of literature and then start analyzing it. Knowing the author or knowing the writer of such a work is very essential to understanding the work itself. Okay, so you understand, even if the person who wrote it and what he wrote are entirely different things, you still have to know who the author or the writer of a work of literature is. You can't just it's weird to know a book and not know who wrote it. All right, so we talked about Wole Soyinka. So if you haven't, you have to go back to watch the previous video so that you can be caught up to speed and you would understand where we are going. All right, my name is Jesse Josh. All right, so now moving on, we're going to be talking about the plot of The Lion and the Jewel. The Lion and the Jewel. Let's look at the plot account. You know that the plot is the sequential arrangement of events in a work of literature. However, this is not a comprehensive plot. It's just basically like a summary. Okay, time would not permit for us to read we cannot read The Lion and the Jewel here in the class, but we can give you a plot. We can give you a step-by-step summary of the events that unfolded in the work of drama. Okay, so let's go, and I hope you enjoy. In the village of Elujinle, which The Lion and the Jewel, the story of Lion and the Jewel is situated, right? That's what it's called, the village of Elujinle. It's flourishing the village of Elujinle with its flourishing traditional customs and traditions. A village which may be said not to have been ready to experience modernity. There lived a ballet and traditional ruler called Baroka. His head wife, Sadiku, the village belle, Sidi, the 23-year-old teacher, Lakunle. Baroka, as a representative of tradition, still lives within the dictates of the Yoruba culture, avoiding modernity as much as he can, while patronizing polygamy and protecting tradition to the extent that he bribes against Elujinle springing up as a modern environment. All right, so there are basically about 5 major characters in this drama work. Baroka, which is the ballet and the traditional ruler of the village called Elujinle, right? His head wife, Saduku, the village belle, like the village beauty, Sidi, and the 23-year-old teacher, Lakunle. These are the main characters in the work of drama. Now, I'm going to be using a lot of literary terms. So if you have not watched our previous videos, you're going to be confused if I use some terms. But I'm going to use them because I'm going to assume that you already watched the previous videos, which I talked about. I talked extensively on literary devices and figures of speech. So if you're wondering what character is, or characterization is, or foreshadowing is, or flashback is, or it's obvious that you have not watched the previous video, and I would advise that you do so. Thank you. So we're going to move on from there. Sadiku is Baroka's head wife, who seems to be comfortable with her place among the lion's harem. So comfortable is she that she's willing to welcome yet another wife, Sidi, for Baroka. She not only carries out the function of informing Sidi, the jewel, that her husband wants to marry her, Sidi, she eventually makes it possible, even if ironically, for the 62-year-old traditional ruler to achieve his aim. Now, I don't know what kind of wife wants a second wife. I don't know. I don't think that mentality still exists, but I don't think, however, this is just a story, right? Of course, this is a traditional setting, and in the traditional setting, polygamy still thrives, right? So you still see people marrying 2 or more wives, even in our day-to-day world. But a wife helping the husband to get another wife is something that I do not understand. All right, so Sadiku helps Baroka, her husband, the ballet, to achieve his aim of marrying Sidi, the village beauty. Lakunle is the village school teacher who is fond of Sidi, whom he wants to introduce to civilization unlike the women of old. Together we shall sit at the table, not on the floor, and not eat with fingers, but with knives and forks and breakable plates like civilized beings. This is an excerpt of this is an excerpt to back up what we just said. This is found in page 8. Okay, it's an excerpt to back up the fact that Lakunle wants to introduce civilization to Sidi, right? Unlike the women of old who are already in the village and have give traditional people to the core. Okay. Lakunle also wants Sidi to be his wife, but he is not prepared to pay the bride price, as it would make Sidi appear to be my chattel or my mere property, as Lakunle puts it. In contrast, Sidi wants a bride price on her to forestall the villagers thinking that she wasn't a virgin or that she was forced to sell herself without a price. Okay. Lakunle then descends on the savage custom of bride price on her to forestall the villagers thinking that I was no virgin, right? Lakunle then descends on the savage of custom of bride price, describing it with bombastic English as barbaric, outdated, retrogressive, remarkable, and unpalatable. Okay, these were the words of Lakunle in describing the barbaric nature of paying bride price. But I don't think it's barbaric, right? Because we still do it to today. So obviously Lakunle's plan did not work. All right. It is in this state of things that Baroka, whom Lakunle appears, who Lakunle despises, appears ready to contest for Sidi's hand in marriage with a tar younger school teacher who has the advantage of modern education, youthfulness, and probably vigor, right? So we see here that Lakunle and Baroka are kind of in a tug of war to have Sidi's hand in marriage. Both of them want to marry Sidi, right? Lakunle is coming with the idea of modernity, and Baroka is coming with the idea of he's the traditional ruler, he's the ballet, right? So basically they are all in a tussle for Sidi's hand in marriage. Now, because of Sidi's vanity, Baroka sends across a decoy. He has turned impotent. He announces to the outside world through his flippant head wife, but it was all a bait. Sidi, who is now so full of herself because her pictures now adorn magazines and now an object of desire by men, falls for the lure and goes to visit Baroka in order to mock him sexually. In this process, she loses her virginity and is prepared to marry the old man while dumping Lakunle, whom she considers to be a watered-down, a beardless version of unripened man. Oh my God. Now, let me explain what's happening there, okay? So, remember I told you that Baroka and Lakunle want to have Sidi's hand in marriage, right? Yes. So, Sidi is kind of, should we call her proud? I won't necessarily call her proud. I'll call her naive, right? So, Baroka wants to get Sidi's hand in marriage, but Sidi doesn't want to get married to him, right? So, Baroka realizes that the only way he can get Sidi to be his wife is probably through a trick, right? So he tricks himself, knowing fully well that his wife already, Sadiku, is a blabbermouth, right? She's very, very flippant. I hope you know what it means to be flippant. You do anything anyhow, without, not minding the consequences. So knowing that his wife already, Sadiku, was flippant, he decided to tell her that he's impotent, right? And then Sidi, in her foolishness, decided to go to the Baroka, to the ballet, and try to mock him sexually. And then the Baroka, caught his trap, right? And then he deflowered Sidi, and then Sidi had no other choice but to marry him and dump Lakunle, whom she considers to be a watered-down, beardless version of unripened man. Ha! Hey! Okay. So basically, that is the plot of the story. Now, there are other events that happened in between, which is why I'm saying again that if you did not read the book, you cannot understand. This summary will not make up for everything that is in the book, okay? So please and please, just get the book. I'll probably get a copy to show you what it looks like or something. But then you have to read the book for you to understand. And now I put some of the pages the pages where some of these words or these statements were made, so that you can always go back to the book and check it and read and see the context, see the circumstances when those statements were made. Okay? Let's move on to the setting of the drama world, Lion and the Jewel. The setting. Now there are two identifiable places serving as the play setting. There is the village arena and the ballet's bedroom. It is clear from the setting that the people lack very many items of sophistication, although modernity is threatening to overrun Ilujinle, but the physical setting of a market is threatening to overrun Ilujinle. There is the physical setting of a market in which stands firmly the Odon tree and Lakunle's part of a school block, a part of it protruding outside. As already pointed out, Ilujinle is a largely rural area, still steeped in moonlight, shining at night, and storytelling going on among mothers and their children. The block of a building having a classroom taught by Lakunle symbolizes the intruding world of Western civilization. Then there is Baroka's bedroom. Okay, let me explain what I've been talking about basically. Right, so the setting of the play, you have to go back to understand what the setting is, or the setting of a work of literature is the place, the psychological, the physical, social environment, right, which a work of arts or literature takes place. So basically, now there are two basic settings that we can find in the play Lion and the Jewel. We have the village arena and then Baroka's bedroom, and there are other sub settings, right? The market, Lakunle's school or classroom or building, a block of building, right? And basically what the setting is the setting of the work by the author is trying to tell you that this place is a very, very rural area, although modernity is creeping in, right? How do we know modernity is creeping in? Lakunle is trying to create a modern classroom, right? And modern classroom of Western civilization, basically. So that's the setting we are talking about now. So then there is Baroka's bedroom. Ordinarily, it is just a traditional room which enhances the notion of the hinterland of Africa, which we made reference to before. However, we see guns and animal skins in Baroka's room, and our mind immediately recalls that we are dealing with a praying fellow, a metaphorical hunter who will not spare anything of interest to him. All right, so the setting is trying to even it's not just to show the environment. It's trying to even highlight or bring to fore what Baroka is. So we see guns, we see animal skins in Baroka's room, right? So when you see guns and animal skins, what does it tell you? It tells you that that person is probably a hunter, right? So and hunters usually go for whatever interests them, which is kind of a metaphor to him going for CD, right? Here he's the hunter going for his prey, CD, right? So that's basically what we are talking about. So at this point, items of modern culture are still few and not well understood. So there has been no modernity is just creeping in, right? It's just creeping in. They are still living their traditional ancient rural life, okay? But modernity, spearheaded by Lakunle, is trying to creep in to the village of Ilujinle. All right. Thus, when we see things like camera, surveyor's implements, geometric sandwiches, sparks, and even a car, they come to us in flashbacks. Okay, these instruments hardly mean much to the rural dwellers. Probably only Lakunle and Baroka know their meaning and their implication to the modern world, poised for an invasion. Okay, so the village of Ilujinle is so rural and so local that some of them don't even know what a car is or what it is used for. They don't know what a camera is or what it is used for, right? So maybe only Baroka, who of course as the ballet must be well traveled, and Lakunle, who is from the Western world, knows a few of these modern instruments or modern culture, as the case may be. So basically the point is that the setting of this poem is highly rural. All right. Here is also the setting based on time, right? So Wole Soyinka tries to divide this book into 3 settings of time, right? Morning, noon, and night. Now, one thing about literature is that you have to pay attention. You don't just assume. I once asked the students a question about this setting of time, and instead of saying morning, noon, and night, it said morning, afternoon, and evening. Now, you'll be wrong, even though you are close to it, but it is morning, noon, and night, not morning, noon, and evening, right? Not day, whatever. Okay, so it is morning, noon, and night. Now, the morning represents pristine innocence and adult existential experience. In morning events, there is youthfulness, the period when Lakule is dominant and expresses love sentiments which cannot be said to be concrete gestures, especially as it plays down on bride price payments. Okay, so the morning is basically talking about, how the morning is bright, this is usually Lakule's period, right? It's used to portray Lakule's, intelligence and dominance, right? How he talks about his love sentiments, his feelings towards CD, and he's talking down on the traditional ways of the people, right? And elevating the westernized system of living. How he does this is by talking down on bride price. In the earlier part of the book, the play opens by Lakule complaining about CD carrying a calabash of water on her head. So he was kind of, let me use the Gen Z language, or yabbing her and making fun of her by saying that she or her carrying calabash on her head will make her neck, get shorter and all those stuff, and make her back bend and everything. So he was Lakule was really averse to this whole rural life and traditional way of living, and was really trying his best to elevate and, infuse the modern culture or the westernized culture into this village of Ilujile, right? Now, included in this time episode is the mind tale of the lost traveler adventure, discovery, love, and drunkenness. When we come to night, it is full of deception. Sadiku, the head wife of the ballet, spreads the sad tale of Baroka's eventual impotence after a several exploits with women. By so doing, she has unwittingly advanced her husband's further exploits, this time with a 17-year-old village belle. Okay, belle there is just another word for beauty or young lady, all right? So, like what I said earlier about, when we talked about the plot, Sadiku unknowingly, she ironically helped Bale to gain a second wife. Okay, so the idea of her getting a second wife was not even intentional. She thought that she was going to be ruining the chances of Baroka, yes, which is the ballet, of ruining his chances of having a second wife by announcing and broadcasting to the whole village that Baroka was now impotent. However, it did not play out the way she expected. Baroka eventually, had, his way and got to marry himself a 17-year-old village beauty. All right. As well, there is the mock duel between Baroka and his engaged wrestler with whom he regularly exercises himself. The night is the adult world of intrigues. Here, the not-so-careful girl who is limited in her knowledge of cunning is ensnared. All right, so like I said, I don't want to say, even though CD expressed some level of pride, I think she was more naive, right, and very immature, right, much more than, so she didn't know the ways of the world. Let me use that language. She didn't know the ropes, right. Baroka was more experienced, and then she fell for Baroka's trick. Okay, the night bears a scene of the masked male who is pursued by a group of female dancers. CD, being a young girl, does not know what the mask and the mind behind it portend. It is here that the masked male turns into Baroka, or it turns into a Baroka which will consume the young and inexperienced CD. So the night here was just a metaphor trying to foreshadow, should I use that word? Foreshadow the idea that something bad, bad things happen at night, right? They usually happen at night. So the night was just a significance of or was pointing to the fact that CD was going to get into trouble, right, with Baruka. Noon has its own implication. It is a buffer zone. It's a buffer zone of the day. What takes place corresponds to innocence, just like morning time. However, there still exists hints of impending harm. There is, for instance, the love message of the Bale to Sidi through Sadiku here at noon. We are told of Baruka's past and present through the use of mime, in which he, bribes the surveyor to look elsewhere so that Baruka can further exploit Illuginless innocence. Okay? Here, too, his predatory eyes center on Sidi, who has no further information about the old man except that he has lost his virility after years of dealing with women and is now laced with possible shame. This is the setting in which the jewel Sidi, who has no further information about the old man, this is the setting in which the jewel literally walks into the mouth of the lion. We're going to put a stop to this class, and in the next class we're going to be talking about the characters. We're going to analyze the characters, see what their personality is like, and we'll take it from there. So I'll see you in the next class. But in this class we'll talk about the plot and the setting of the play Lion and the Jewel. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. But like I said, and I'll keep saying till the end of our analysis of text, that this summary or this analysis will not suffice for reading the book, okay, or for not reading the book, okay. So you have to read the book, and this analysis will make more sense to you. I'll see you in the next class. My name is Jesse Josh.